What's up, and welcome to a very special episode of First Geek 411, where we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day. My name's
Yeah, we
Caden
are.
Franklin, and with me, as we swing metaphorically, of course, through the streets of New York City, all the way on West Coast, Best Coast, is Emma. How are you doing today?
I don't know, man. Maybe there's something that I'm not telling you about what I do in my free
Yo.
time.
Hey,
You know?
I'm going to be honest. If you were a superhero and didn't tell me, I would be extremely upset. I would just like
I
that on the record.
know.
And I, and that goes the other way too. I would expect you to be very upset if I was a
Oh,
superhero and
yes.
hadn't told you. Like,
You mean this whole time,
this
Cameron?
whole time.
This whole time?
Yeah. Before we get into it, we will be chatting about what we've been up to, things like that. Once the thing, it's that way in the corner, turns to the Spider-Man, that's when we'll be going full spoilers, but we got a little bit till we get there. And so, but talk about people where they can find us. They can find us around the internet as One Geek 411. You can join that Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. You can find us Monday nights, 7:30 Central Time, live streaming on Twitch and YouTube. And then also on YouTube, you can find all of our VODs, including our Coriolis, the Great Dark, the Flowers of Algarob actual play. And we're in session 3. Our players just dealt with their first combat. Is everyone almost dead? Maybe. And so
Maybe. Debatable. I can check my sheet right here.
Yeah.
I'm not looking good.
Yeah.
That is the
this
result.
From the back, not looking good.
Not looking good.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm hyped. I was telling Emma, like, right as we are getting ready, I've been doing some prep this week, and I am hyped for some of the stuff that y'all have coming up. And so I'm very excited for all of that. And so whether you're watching Twitch, YouTube live, or later, check out the VODs, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all of that jazz, whichever one is applicable for the or for the site that you are using. Then, before we get into our main topic of the week, Emma, how's your week been? What have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. It's been a relatively boring couple of weeks on my end of things. I have once again picked up Horizon Zero Dawn as a video game.
Shocked.
Surprise. This time I'm playing it on hard. I decided to challenge myself a little bit. Turns out it's not as much of a challenge as I thought it was. It's just kind of like the experience you have playing a video game for the first time where you have to learn how the game works. I'm just kind of having to relearn how the game works in that I was going so easy for so long that now I'm like, you mean you're actually dealing more damage to me and I have to think about my strategy? Wow. Shocker. It's almost like I picked the hard mode for a reason. But I'm having a blast. I'm like halfway through the storyline at this point. Having a good time. Trucking along. Doing Horizon Zero Dawn things. Went and saw Spider-Man this weekend, obviously.
Whoop, whoop.
We'll talk more about that later. It's the first time I've seen a Marvel movie opening weekend in a long time. But yeah, it's very exciting. Can't wait to talk about it. And I've started looking for apartments because if people don't know, I'm moving out of my current place at some point in the next 2 months. And I've started looking for apartments, and by that I mean apartment touring. So that's about that. I saw a place this weekend that's really cute, really great, and it might be a good one. So it's very exciting time
Nice.
coming up here. So
I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you to get more space that you can make your own. And so
yes, me too. It's at some point this background will change into potentially not my bedroom and more of a living room in the background. So
nice.
I will my goal is to have my desk in a living room rather than in my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
That is the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, get the separation of the space. That's like a huge thing.
keep my bedroom
Um,
as my bedroom and
yeah,
not bedroom/home office. So that's been my life.
nice. For me, had access to Netflix, and so I have been watching Knives Out 2 and 3, being The Glass Onion and Wake Up Dead Man, of course. Those are some of my favorite just put them on movies. Like, obviously there's so much, like so many cool details once you know the answers that you can go back and look at and all of that stuff. But love going back and putting those on and just like vibing out to Benoit Blanc's accent, and living that best life. I've probably seen, like, the Knives Out series is probably my most watched movies of the last like 10 years. Like I relatively rarely go back and rewatch movies. Um and I tend to go back and like rewatch TV shows. Like I'm a
Yeah.
chronic like The Office, How I Met Your
Yep.
Mother, Schitt's Creek rewatcher. And so um but the Knives Outs are kind of the exception, are like the like one of the few movies that, like, excluding like rewatching a Marvel movie, like Thor Ragnarok or Shang-Chi. Those are probably the other ones that are up there for
Yeah.
me. But um, outside of those, it's probably the Knives Out series. And then also outside of that, I watched Punisher One Last Kill on Disney Plus. It's like the Punisher holiday special. And so it is meh. Like, as someone who like isn't a huge Punisher fan,
Yeah.
like, it was indeed a Punisher thing, and like that is what it was.
Mhm.
But I wanted to make sure I watched it since we'd seen Punisher in the trailers for Spider-Man Brand New Day, just in case it was
Mhm.
relevant. And so I watched that, and then I watched, or have been watching and keeping up with House of the Dragon season 3. We are one episode shy of the finale, and oh,
Ooh.
it's so good. The season has been fantastic. I am back. In chat, Locke says, I literally turned off my Ted Lasso rewatch to come over here. Man, that's
I
dedication, and that's
Yeah,
friendship.
it is.
Appreciate you, Locke. And so, and then not necessarily like stuff that we're going to go into too much detail about today, but I have been keeping up with the Gen Con news and those announcements. And Glass Cannon always does a bunch of actual plays, so I've been watching a lot of those. There were some really cool announcements for Marvel Multiverse. The Innies happened at Gen Con, which we talked about 2 weeks ago. And so, kind of been keeping up with all of that. I'm not necessarily going too much into the specifics, other than the extreme case of FOMO that I had not being at Gen Con and seeing all of the cool stuff that got announced there. Like,
Mhm.
for Marvel Multiverse, they did God Emperor Doom dice, and I want them
Ooh.
so bad. But I think they said it was limited to 616 for 616 dice, and they're only at Gen Con. And I was like, oh, come on.
Oh,
And then they did a
man.
Fantastic Four, um, like, advent calendar, which may be coming to retail later, but like that
Mhm.
was getting shown off ahead of Gen Con 2, and I want that so bad. Like, yeah, good stuff. Been super jealous. The only thing I haven't been jealous of was the tornado warning that they found themselves under at Gen Con. And
Mm.
then there was a massive amount of roof leaks in the convention floor that,
Wow.
like, yeah. A friend of mine texted me Sunday morning and was like, "Hey, I had a lot of FOMO, but seeing the pictures of the roof leaks, I'm good." Apparently it was more in the play area than like the vendor area, but the videos that I saw, it made it look like there was some sort of issue with the ductwork. And so there wasn't a
Mm.
lot of water any specific place, but there was a lot of water all over the place.
Yeah.
And so,
That's kind of
um,
unfortunate.
yeah. And so I don't know how like crazy things were. I was just seeing videos, and I'm sure news will come out of like if anything drastic happened. Because that when my friend told me, I was like, oh man, the last thing that I could think of or would hate to see is a company like picking on Free League because we're playing Coriolis. Is that
Mhm.
like they have tables, and each table is $500, $600 of books.
Yeah.
And then those like maybe even upwards of $1,000 of books just for one specific game. And that specific table gets like completely covered in water. And now you've lost thousands of dollars of retail that like you got to try to make up now. Like that's brutal.
It's not an
I
ideal
don't know
situation.
Yeah. And so, yeah, been super jealous of that. Locke says, I wish I could get into House of the Dragon, or also known as Hot D. I still feel burned for how badly Game of Thrones ended. I will say House of the Dragon and Knight of the Seven Kingdoms have both been really good. And I definitely recommend both of them. Especially if you're someone that was burnt, and like really hated the end of Game of Thrones. I do feel like these ones have done really well. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a great entry point too if you want to like dip your toes back in, because it is only one season right now, and it is drastically different tonally than the rest of Game of Thrones. So, also in chat, Locke says, the tornado warning came with the announcement by the voice actor for the Dungeon Crawler Carl audiobooks. Good for them.
Amazing.
Get in there.
That's how you do it, honestly.
Make that announcement if they put me in. Like, hey, we need someone to do this. I'm like, oh, write it down. I will read whatever you want me to say. I'll Ron Burgundy this so hard.
Yep.
So then the last major thing that I have been up to is it was Mad Bird's book club led by Tasha from our Coriolis game. And so that is the book club that is based on a theme rather than everyone reading an individual book. And this month's themes were to either read a book from before the 1900s or to reread a book that you read in high school. So I reread The Great Gatsby. It was one of the few books I remembered really liking in high school, like of the ones that we had to read. And so I wanted to reread it. Now, Emma, did I only like The Great Gatsby because it's like 180 pages and it's super easy to knock out? Possibly. I could definitely see that is why like junior year Cameron liked this book.
I can believe that.
Yeah. And so it's super funny going back to it because like that book goes so fast because like the audiobook's like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Like it just hauls and it's so fast. Like the climax of the book is like feels like whiplash. It happens so quickly.
Yep.
Especially in audiobook form. And then also the theme for next month for that book club is one of them is academic settings. So I will be reading The Atlas 6 for my next one. I already have it from the library.
Come join me.
I'm finishing up a different book right now, and then we'll jump into the Atlas 6. And so when I saw that on there, I was like, oh, well, I wanted to read this anyway because Emma talked about how much she liked it. And this is the perfect time to go and do that. And so I will soon, probably in 2 weeks, the next...
Welcome to the chaos.
Yeah. So I'll probably have Atlas 6 impressions for our next news chat in 2 weeks after we have Coriolis next week. And so, but that is going to bring us into or out of what we've been up to. If you're watching live or watching later, let us know what you have been playing, reading, watching, listening to, etc., etc. What hobbies have you been hobbying? That kind of stuff. If you're here live with us, we will chat about it over in the post-show chat. But that is going to bring us into our topic of the week. If you're watching this over on YouTube, I will try to timestamp when we formally get into like full-on spoilers. But this is going to be our spoiler cast for Spider-Man Brand New Day. And so before we get into the kind of plot breakdown, our general format is that we're going to kind of talk overview about the film. We're going to try to keep that spoiler free. Then we're going to jump into plot, characters, favorite scenes, future MCU, all of that kind of stuff. And so once we get into that plot section is when we'll transition into full spoilers. And so before we do too much else, Spider-Man Brand New Day was released on July 31st of 2026. It stars Tom Holland and is the 38th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the 4th film in the MCU Spider-Man series. And so then it premiered at the Dolby Theater, and then let's see, the film has received generally positive reviews, to put it lightly, from critics and has grossed $932 million worldwide, becoming the 3rd highest grossing Spider-Man film and the 4th highest grossing film of 2026. It also had the 2nd biggest opening of all time. And then, of course, the bananas part of that is, if you're watching live, it is August 3rd. The film has literally been out for 4 days and has already almost made $1 billion. And so that's crazy. And then the budget for this film is around $225 million, according to Wikipedia. And so I think it's doing pretty good.
You know what that means, Cameron? The people yearn for Spider-Man.
Yes.
The people yearn for Spider-Man, and the cat demands my attention.
Yes. Exactly. And yeah, it's insane to me that, like, just the insane opening weekend that this movie had. Of course, I was one of them. I almost was really considering going to see it a second time, which is super rare for me. I don't know if I've ever intentionally gone to see a movie twice in the theaters. I have seen movies twice, but
I have plans to see it a second time in theaters because I have a friend here who I normally go to see movies with that we're excited about. But they're out of town right now. And I was like, well, I kind of should go see it so that we can do this podcast. But I'll see it with you a second time. And then I saw it, and then I sent him a message afterwards. I was like, I'm absolutely down to see that a second time with you in theaters. So once he gets back, we're going to see it again. So.
Yeah, I know I've been hearing for the special format showings of this that they've been sold out for 15 days. The next 2 weeks are sold out in a lot of places. We went and saw it at 8:40 a.m. on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And the theater was, if not completely full, very close to full. And we ended up going to that showing because it had the best seats available of the morning matinee showings. So there was a lot of people going to do this. And so, yeah, some super crazy stuff. I fully expect this to break and be, if not the #1 movie of the year, to be #2 or be way up there.
Oh, yeah.
And so.
Oh, yeah.
Locke says he saw the original Iron Man in theaters 8 times.
Nice.
I think the most I've seen a movie in theaters is the first Hobbit movie, which I saw 3 times in theaters. And I regret the second 2 viewings of that movie. And so, yeah, I saw it with one group of friends when it came out. And then I'd graduated college, but I was dating someone that was still in college at the time. And so I'd gone to see it with her. And then I went to a conference, and on the last night of the conference, people wanted to go see it because it had just come out. And so I was like, well, I can either sit in the room by myself or go watch this movie a 3rd time. So I went and saw it a 3rd time. And so, Locke says, in my defense, I had multiple friends that worked at the theater. I only paid once. Hey, you do what you got to do. No judgments here.
Yeah.
So, but high level, before we get into spoilers, Emma, what did you think of this movie?
I loved it. Whatever energy and care and love they're putting into the Spider-Man movies, they need to be putting into the rest of the MCU.
Yeah.
Like, whatever this was, I need to see across the other movies because I have not been seeing it in the other movies, but obviously they can do it because they're
Yeah.
doing it for Spider-Man. Like, take whatever it
Yeah.
is you were doing for Spider-Man and do it for your other movies because it's
Yeah.
working.
For real. I My favorite part about this movie, from a spoiler-free perspective, is that this felt like a Spider-Man movie in a way that we haven't seen in Tom Holland's Spider-Man since Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
like we haven't gotten the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man really at all with Tom Holland, and like outside of Homecoming. And so finally getting that was part of why I really loved this movie. And so we'll talk more about spoilers later for that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is the most Spider-Man that like Tom Holland's version has felt like in terms of vibe. And then yeah, I think that this movie was fantastic. Echoing what you said, it's insane the like quality difference between this and some of the other projects. I say, even as someone who really liked Thunderbolts and who really liked Fantastic Four, that like I think both of those are really good. And so I yeah, it's great. And I wish we saw more of this type of stuff. Locke says this becomes the question of, was this the Sony touch, or is it a byproduct of Feige finally reining in the overwhelming amounts of projects so they can focus on quality over quantity? I mean, judging by Sony's live action not like Spider-Man-less universe, I don't think it was them, but who knows?
Yeah. It could go either way. Yeah.
I'm on IMDb. Does it have quick? It does have a quick for who. So this movie was written by Chris McKenna and Eric Sommers. What else did they write? Okay. Chris wrote. Apparently was a writer on American Dad, which is where he met Eric Sommers, and then wrote the Lego Batman movie, the Spider-Man movies, and then Jumanji and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Contributed to Captain America and Winter Soldier as some of his big ones. And then Eric Sommers, a lot of the same stuff. Okay, so it looks like they've been mostly writing together when it comes to theatrical releases. So, yeah. But we've done that. We've had our background. Are you ready to talk spoilers, Emma?
Yes.
Okay, so full spoilers for the whole MCU from here. Emma, I do believe you have not seen some of the more recent movies, so we'll try to avoid spoiling the other ones, but
don't worry.
Okay.
No need to. I have been spoiled enough about those.
Okay.
It's really only the Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts that I haven't seen. I haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but that one is like, I feel like whatever spoilers are in that aren't super relevant.
Yeah.
But I also know that it's about Rocky. Not Rocky. The raccoon, whatever his name is.
Rocket Raccoon.
There we go. Thank you. But Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts, don't worry about spoilers.
Okay.
I've been spoiled.
So jumping into the plot, I'm not going to just read the Wikipedia. So if you see me like dotting. It's where I'm trying to skip ahead, but this is going to be taken from the wiki. So following Dr. Stephen Strange's spell, the world has forgotten that Peter Parker exists. 4 years later, Peter has been anonymously protecting New York City as its celebrated hero, Spider-Man, but has distanced himself from those he used to know, including his ex-girlfriend MJ and his former best friend Ned. He intervenes in a tank rampaging through the city and breaks into the Department of Damage Control. The driver has been telepathically possessed, and the telepath body hops from person to person to help the Scorpion escape. Peter goes and meets Yelena, who is currently the head of New Avengers, as he talks to and tries to figure out what is VMAX. He later goes and questions the head of the Department of Damage Control, Bill Metzger, who claims ignorance. Peter later encounters Ned and MJ, who have moved back into New York after graduating from MIT, and they do not recognize him. I gotta say, Emma, it was freaking heartbreaking watching him watch the social media of these former friends.
Absolutely.
And yeah, very good storytelling touch. Loved that. But man, it was heartbreaking.
Yep.
Peter returns home in distress and wakes up the next morning with heightened senses and organic webbings coming out of his wrists. Let's see. He ends up fighting the Scorpion again, who is being possessed by the telepath, who then mocks him. Peter reacts in violence as the spider hormones take over and he becomes evil. And then he later goes to Bruce Banner to ask about the inhibitor device and, casually creates a device that suppresses any mutation in genes. I'm sure that's not going to be relevant at all.
Yeah, that's not going to come back to haunt us at any point in the near future.
Yeah. Peter ends up encountering the telepath again, who threatens MJ. Peter goes and goes to attempt to rescue MJ, only to find out that she has been possessed by the telepath. Peter then gets a picture of the telepath, and then in the reboot of the super creepy scene from the end of Batman Begins, has hacked into every camera in New York City and is doing facial recognition in the biggest invasion of privacy out there. But whatever, Peter. And so Jean we also at this point we find out that the telepath is Sadie Sink's Jean freaking Grey. Let's go. And then Jean attacks the Department of Damage Control again using Hulk, who Peter subdues with quite literally the power of friendship.
Literally.
Yeah.
He pulled the Black Widow. Almost.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. And so he ends up subduing Jean, who mentions someone who named Sarah, who Metzger then claims he was thinking of as a deceased colleague. MJ later finds the letter that Peter wrote at the end of No Way Home, revealing that he knew her and that he hadn't come. And then MJ basically says, "Hey, I have no clue who you are, but it sounds like you really cared for this other version of me, but that's not who I am." And again, freaking heartbreaking.
Emotionally devastating.
Yeah. And then we get the most heartwarming scene where she invites him over to her apartment so that he and Ned can hang out. Because Peter Parker has been forgotten, but Spider-Man hasn't. So all of the times that Spider-Man saved Ned and MJ, they remember. And so Ned is trying to track down who Peter is or who Spider-Man is. And it's awesome. I love it. Again, invasion of privacy. Ned has created the spider tracking app where people just like report the location of Spider-Man, which seems like something you would not want to do for a superhero, but like
Not at all.
whatever. MJ reveals that she couldn't remember anything that happened when she was possessed, so Peter realizes that Metzger was lying to him, and then learns from the Department of Damage Control files that Yelena helps him capture that I don't know why I said capture, that Sarah was Jean's sister, who was another telepath who was kidnapped by the Department of Damage Control. At this time, Jean is being interrogated in an attempt to for the DODC to basically figure out how powers work. And they figure if they can figure out how her brain works, they can replicate it, which is completely horrifying. There's a lot of horrifying things in this.
Yeah, there's a lot of terrible implications in this movie about the way that this version of our universe works, fictional or not.
Yeah. And during this interrogation, Jean realizes that VMAX is just Vent Max, and it was the vent in the room where her sister died. And that was the thought that she had reached out to. And so Jean has her power-up moment, because really throughout all of this, we've only seen Jean use telepathy. And then she basically unlocks telekinesis. So let's go. And she ends up like locking down, I think they say 1 kilometer of New York City. Like F's in chat for everyone. They had all the bad stuff in Thunderbolts, and then now had Jean Grey locking down 1 kilometer of the city. And then go ahead. Oh, okay. And then
I was contributing effects.
Oh yeah. And so Peter and Jean have like a philosophical debate as Jean mind controls the hand ninjas. And then they, who, in like the most hand wavy thing, are now working for the Department of Damage Control. Peter eventually embraces his control or his like powers, and he is both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And then is able to fight his way through. There's also a cool thing here where we learn that the Department of Damage Control has been designing weapons specifically to stop Peter's webs from working, but his organic webs get around that. But I really like what Jean says in this scene of like, hey, even though like you're working for them, they are planning to betray you. And like, we literally get that. I thought that was very cool. And so Peter goes and offers to let Jean jump into his mind, where she talks to Aunt May, proving once and for all Aunt May is, of course, the real MVP. For anyone that like didn't think she was.
She is the one holding us all together.
Yeah. And through this, and through the words that she told Peter, Jean comes to realize, like, basically with great power must also come great responsibility. That's not said in that line, but that's the gist of it. And then throughout the film, Punisher has been around. He attempts to take a sniper shot to take out Jean. Peter's spider sense perceives it even within Jean's mind control and is able to move in the way and take the bullet. Jean uses her powers to keep Peter alive until he's able to go through surgery and wake up with Castle in the bed beside him. And then we get a post-credit scene of Ned's Spider Tracker app showing that a Spider-Man has appeared somewhere in space. And that's the gist of the plot. And so in chat, Locke says, shout out to Milchick, who portrayed Metzger. He did a great job. We'll talk about like specific characters in a bit, but like I hate him so much, and that's like a very big testament to how well that character was acted.
Yeah. I mean, I pegged him right from the beginning that he wasn't telling the truth.
Yeah.
But also I feel like that was kind of the point.
Yeah. And then I believe you had not seen Wonder Man, correct?
Correct.
Okay. One, you should. It's about Hollywood. And so definitely go and recommend you watch it. but the Department of Damage Control are the villains in that. And so, like, pretty obviously they were going to become the villains here. And so, also Locke says, somebody on Threads said, I too feel like a hug from Marissa Tomei would heal me. Yeah, give me an Aunt May hug and like we're ready to go. So that's the gist of the plot. Let's go through and talk about our characters and kind of what we thought of all of them. Let's, of course, start off with our lead, Tom Holland's Spider-Man. What did you think of our fourth solo outing for Peter Parker? But a whole bunch of performances for him as Spider-Man up to this point.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Tom Holland continues to prove why he was the correct casting for this version of Spider-Man. Like, I feel like this is another one of those, like, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, and Tom Holland is Spider-Man. Like, this feels like one of those situations of, like, it felt a little odd when it was first announced, but now that we're here 4 movies later, it's like, yeah, this kind of works. Mm-hmm. It really works. I love in this, a lot of the main plot is kind of like Spider-Man fighting against himself rather than an actual villain. Like, there is a villain, but it turns out the villain isn't actually a villain and just someone else who has been exposed to the unfortunates of the system, basically. And they both end up being able to help each other. But it's Peter Parker in this felt like a Peter Parker trying to figure out his way in the world post very dramatic change. Yeah. And it fits very well.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of the Spider-Man theory is not the right word, but like, I guess like storytelling trope that everything that benefits Peter Parker should hurt Spider-Man and everything that benefits Spider-Man should hurt Peter Parker. And that this character's like dichotomy should be, does he do what is best for Peter or does he do what is best for Spider-Man? And we obviously got like a huge manifestation of that trope at the end of No Way Home, where he has to choose, do you erase Peter Parker from everyone's memory, or do you basically have all of these villains come in and make it extremely hard for Spider-Man? And so he chooses to sacrifice Peter to preserve the world. I love that we get the fallout of this. I love that we get that trope played out throughout this film as well, even like not even so subtly, like just like the idea of like, well, you've spent so much time alone that your spider hormones are ticking up, like stuff like that. And so I like that we got to see that. As I said at the top, I also love that that we get to see Spider-Man become like a serious threat. They did this in the Insomniac Spider-Man games, where the premise is that like that version of Spider-Man has beat all of his villains. And so like, well, what do you do in that one? You fight them in pairs or you fight them in groups and like that kind of stuff, because you've already been Spider-Man. You've already done these amazing things. And we get that here as well. And so Locke says, I've seen a lot of the best Batman debate about this. You'll die on the Toby is a better Peter than Spidey. Andrew is a better Spidey than Peter, and Tom is the best amalgamation of both. My issue with that is I think Toby is an awful Peter Parker and is an awful Spider-Man. Not that his acting is bad or that he doesn't play the character well, but like his version of those people are awful. Like he's like that Peter is a huge like jerk, is an awful person. His version of Spider-Man is not a good person either. even in like the first movie. So like, we're not even getting into symbiote stuff. Like, he is just like the worst incarnation of like, again, not acting, not as like the way that he portrays the character, but that version of the character is just the worst person. And so, but yeah, if you like, as someone who recently went back and rewatched Spider-Man 1 when Mayfly was visiting, like the amount of like awful things, and it's not just Peter, it's like everyone in that movie is an awful person. Just like straight up. And so they are all really bad people. Like, that's the worst MJ in terms of like, again, as a person, that MJ is an awful person. Again, not talking about acting, not talking about how they were portrayed, but they're just all really bad people. And so, and again, great, well done, good acting, but yeah, they're just bad people, bad characters. And so, but yeah, so like, I love this. I love that we get friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We finally get more of that from Tom's version. I was looking it up. He has been Spider-Man for 10 years at this point, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, so like, that's pretty crazy to see. Good for him. I really liked this hero's journey that we get for him as well, of having to embrace being both Spider-Man and being Peter Parker, and he has to learn again how to like balance that as he like re-becomes friends with Ned and MJ. Yeah, so I think that was really cool. For our next, or any final thoughts on Spider-Man?
I do. You just said something that reminded me of this, but there's a scene where he basically discovers that he cannot use both his man-made web slingers and his biological web slingers at the same time. And we have this whole like 30 to 45 second moment basically of just him essentially relearning how to use his powers.
Yes.
And I really love that and appreciate it, because the one thing that we don't get with this version of Spider-Man is him getting his powers. Like, the first MCU Spider-Man movie is after he got his powers. We don't get the origin story of Spider-Man, which we don't need in the MCU. Everyone knows who Spider-Man is. Like, you get bit by a radioactive spider and then you just, figure out how to do that and move on with your life. But we do get in this movie a good 30 to 45 seconds of Peter Parker having to relearn how to use his powers, which I feel like is a good, strong replacement for the fact that we didn't get the origin story, which is something we didn't need. It was just this funny moment of like, I feel like they were kind of making a joke of that, but in a way that fit with the theme and the voice, and it was great because it was just like, yeah, you're a bumbling idiot for a little bit because everything you inherently know has changed and you have to relearn all of this. So
I really liked the joke that he was disgusted by the organic webbing.
Yeah.
He like gags as it comes out, and like, and I also do like that there we got the callback to Peter 2, being Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, who like, and he's like, oh wait, other Spider-Man also had organic webbing, and so I think that was funny, and it was a cool callback to Multiverse, or No Way Home, but
No Way Home,
I like that as well as a gag. And so, and then, I like him. I like where he's like saying "Go Web" or like "Go Web, stop Web." Like I love that as a little thing. I guess our other main lead is Arthur in YouTube says Tom Zaya overload. We'll talk about him. We'll come back to Zendaya because I think our other lead is, of course, Sadie Sink's Jean Grey. I cannot tell you how much I whooped when it was revealed that this was in fact Jean Grey. I was pretty bought in on the theory that it had to be Jean Grey, and if it wasn't, like, something crazy was going to happen. But I was so excited that this was actually Jean Grey. For people that don't know, like Spider-Man is probably like my favorite like individual like hero. Um, but I love the X-Men. And so I'm so excited that we're getting more teases from mutants. And that we also get the like a pretty upfront reason why the world would fear mutants. Um,
Yeah.
in specific, like with what Jean did and throughout this film. And so, what did you think of Sadie Sink's take on the character?
I am excited to see where this goes. It when it was revealed, I I am still so used mentally to separating Avengers characters from X-Men characters when it comes to movies
Mm-hmm.
because that's the way it's been for so long, just because of
Yep.
legal rights. Like the X-Men just don't exist in this universe. So like when it was revealed that it was Jean Grey, I was like, "Oh, Jean Grey, X-Men. I know her." But then for the next like 20 minutes I was like, "Wait, is she really X-Men? Do I just know the name and am unable to remember any other details about her?" But then I was like, "No, she's got to be that one very specific X-Men with the red hair and the all of this other traumatic stuff that she experiences." It took me a while to actually like reconnect that she was X-Men,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm so used to that gap being there of we just legally have not been able to include the X-Men for so long. Um, that they just don't exist. But I'm really excited for this. I'm excited to see where she goes. I think it's an interesting slash maybe different take on her powers. I don't know her power set super well beyond telekinesis and telepathy. So the depiction of it that I'm used to is just, oh, she moves things with her mind and then she can speak to you in your head. And this version of her powers is like, yeah, she can do that, but her main thing, at least right now, is that she can take over people's bodies,
Yeah.
basically. And I don't know if that's something that's like officially in other like source material part of her shtick. Um, I think it's a cool interpretation of that power set, and I think it's one that works within that sort of classification of telepathy and telekinesis. Because, like, yeah, if you
Mm-hmm.
can talk to someone in their head and you're also able to move things with your mind, it does kind of make logical sense that you could, if you have the willpower and enough practice, it does make sense that you would be able to, like, essentially control someone's body,
Mm-hmm.
which is horrifying.
Yeah.
Um, and also has all of its own crazy implications, um, as has been kind of seen in this movie. You get a woman in her 60s or whatever driving a tank into a
Mm-hmm.
max security jail, who clearly had no right to be doing any of that at any point. Um, but I think it's a great interpretation of her skills, whether or not
Mm-hmm.
it was part of her original set.
Yeah.
And I've one of the things I've seen floated around on the internet that I don't quite know how to interpret or take or have an opinion on is that she's the next MJ, meaning that she's the next romance option for Spider-Man. Which I'm like, we don't know where this MJ friendship is going. So that's a bold assumption. But also, two people can just be friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that was my, if she wasn't Jean Grey, I wanted and she could have also still been Jean Grey, and this could have been a different joke, but like, or a different like plot twist. But I wanted her to be Mary Jane, because like, of course, Zendaya's character is not Mary Jane. It's a different abbreviation. It's Michelle
It's
Jones.
Michelle. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it would have been a funny twist if, like, prior to Peter finding her files, but post possession of MJ, like, she introduced
Figuring
herself
out.
as Mary Jane or as something else. I think that would have been really funny, and an interesting take. But yeah, I'm in the same camp as you. I hope that it's not a romantic thing between them. Um, if we're going to do a different love interest for Peter, I want it to be Black Cat. Like, let's get that going, and get her into the MCU. And so there's also a lot of other characters that like would make sense. Um, and yeah. Locke calls out that in the Lego games, Jean Grey can take over people's minds. And
Okay.
so my recollection is that like telekinesis has been like her main power, and
Yeah.
that like she's been able to do telepathy, but like not as good as Professor X. Whereas
Yeah.
like Professor X is like a 10 in telepathy, Jean Grey is a 7. But like
Yeah.
then Jean Grey is a 10 in telekinesis.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I don't know where
That
that came from
yeah.
necessarily, but that's always been
That was
my
my
interpretation.
recollection of her from the X-Men movies
Yep.
specifically, was that, like, telekinesis was her main thing of, like, moving objects and, like, essentially being able to fly and whatever other stuff by pushing
Mm-hmm.
off of objects and things. Um, so, like, again, I don't know if this taking over bodies things was a source material thing, but it is with what I know of her overall power set does kind of make sense as a good interpretation of things, and I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
cool one. It's an interesting take on what is generally
Yep.
considered a core, n quote, unquote, "basic power set."
Yep. Yeah. I also really like having Jean introduced here just because I think anytime we can see the mutants, not just in an X-Men movie, is a win.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
that kind of gets into like the promise of the MCU that everything was supposed to connect, but like anytime we can see that like those things overlap, even here like with Yelena showing up, like anytime we can get those types of things, awesome. That's what we want to see. And so getting one of the core first class X-Men in a non X-Men movie is super exciting for me.
Mhm.
Um, and chat says, "Do you know? Have you learned who DeWolf is?" I know I saw some stuff for connections, Locke, but if you want to post specifically, we'll come to that in a moment. Um, and then with Jean, I really like that we got to see her sister having similar powers, and
Mhm.
then see her sister like use her powers on Jean. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
That when like as a act of protection to like
Mhm.
I'm getting captured, but I can do this to make sure you don't. And
Mhm.
so I thought that was really cool. And then we're going to talk about a whole bunch more characters, but I think the last solo character I want us to talk about is Frank Castle's or Jonathan Bernthal's Frank Castle / the Punisher. Like I said at the top of the show, I watched Punisher One Last Kill in preparation for this. It was completely not needed.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but I will say, like, Punisher was in this movie a lot more than I expected. Like, that was something that, like, I thought was really cool. As I was saying at the top, I do not like Punisher. That's not,
Yeah.
I was watching Kind of Funny's content on it. And one of the things that they talk about is like the hero fantasy that Punisher is like just doesn't appeal to some people. And I am one of those people. Like, I am much more on the with great power comes great responsibility
Mhm.
side of heroes. And so like Punisher, I don't think is that interesting on his own. But man, put Punisher in a film as the devil on someone's shoulder, and let's rock and roll. This is why he's great with Daredevil. This is why he's great with Spider-Man. Like, let's have a philosophical debate over like these morals with like this is stuff that I really like. And then I also really like the idea of like Peter being a character that Punisher can beat up but can't easily kill. Like, 'cause Peter can just like shrug off so much like damage. And I love that for the like their antagonistic friendship. And so like this is probably one of my top like Jonathan Bernthal does great as Frank Castle. And like this has been probably one of my favorite like performances of his. So
yeah, I
what do you
am
think?
100% with you. That was basically everything I was gonna say as well. The Punisher is not a hero slash character that like I would go out of my way to watch the solo content for. I think there was a Punisher show, correct? Netflix, within
Yeah.
the Netflix universe. I think I watched maybe 1 or 2 episodes of it and just like didn't really continue on. But I do love him as like basically a companion character to other heroes within the MCU, because he is great, as you said, with Daredevil and with Spider-Man. I thought this was a great team up between him and Spider-Man, because Spider-Man notoriously and famously does not kill the people he fights. Like, he keeps them alive, he just knocks them out. Whereas Punisher, he kind of strongly advocates for taking people all the way out. If you're going to do the job, you're going to do it once, and that's it. And I think that's a great like dichotomy of characters, to have two people with such strong opposing thoughts and opinions on how to handle this kind of scenario, who also very clearly need each other to function and survive, to the point that they also have their own little bickering inside joke, like Hawkeye and Black Widow,
I was
of
about to say it's
some
very
event
reminiscent.
that we never see on screen. It's just something happens off screen that they keep talking about that we never know, but it's so funny because we'll never know what actually happened. It's just, oh yeah, these characters have a history and they're gonna laugh about it. And we're gonna give you just enough information to figure out kind of what happened, but not enough to actually know what happened. And that's what made it good. But yeah, totally with you. The Punisher, not a solo character that I would engage in content with, but great in butting heads with other characters and in friendly fire, so to speak. Especially when he's living in a boatyard that's been booby trapped up to high heaven.
Yeah. Locke says Punisher being introduced in Spider-Man made it fun to have him in it, though. Yeah, I again fully agree. I also, one of the things that we hadn't talked about, because this is primarily in the beginning of the film, but we do get a cool one with Punisher, is the recreation of a bunch of comic book covers of like, as we get the like flashback through Peter's like superheroing that's happened over like the 4 years. A lot of them are very similar. And then after Punisher accidentally shoots Peter, him taking Peter to the hospital is like very reminiscent of a comic book storyline. And so that's something that was really cool. And I always love a cool nod when we can get some sort of recreation of a panel, or like popular panels, popular covers, things like that. So, yeah, that's Punisher. Let's go in for these next ones. I have them kind of just like grouped by vibe. If there's people that you want to more so talk about in these specific groups, we can do that, or we can kind of address them as a whole. This first group I'm thinking of as like the OG family / friends. And that is, of course, Zendaya's MJ. And then we also get the return of I always forget Ned's actor's name. Jacob Batalon as Ned Leeds. And then, of course, we already talked about the return of um, um, of Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. So what did you think of these characters? Obviously, we get substantially less Aunt May than the rest of these, but what did you think of the three of them?
I mean, the version of Aunt May we get is, within Peter's head, within this one scene of her giving him advice, um, which is great. Like, if you're gonna do callbacks to a character who's passed away, who's like a mentor or in a mentor position, um, I feel like that's a good way to do it, where it's you get bits and pieces of one scene, that like it's kind of like replayed or like reorganized to make it exciting while also not too confusing.
Yeah. And
MJ
her
and
name
Ned,
is Tomei. Thank you, Locke. I have been saying it wrong. So
good to know.
yeah.
MJ and Ned, the classic found family combo, best friend, um, ex-girlfriend, I guess you could say. Classic. I do appreciate with them that even though their memories have been wiped, their like friendship with each other still very much feels like the friendship that we got pre-memory wipe, of like it still makes sense for their characters that they treat each other the way that they do. It's just the only missing piece is Peter, um, who's not around, and then even when he does sort of start to show back up, um, he fits in naturally because of course he does. Um, and like I want to see more of where whatever this plot line is with MJ and Ned is going. I want to see where it goes. Like I hope they
Yeah.
continue on with whatever is happening here, because it's something very interesting and I'm very curious. I have several thoughts on their journey that I will talk about in a later question that relates to a later question. So
there is some major stuff some major implications for them.
yeah.
I'll do kind of, I guess, opposite order from you. It turns out Tom and Zendaya have fantastic chemistry. Who would have guessed?
Wow, imagine that. It's almost shocked, like they're married.
Shocked, I tell you. And so, love getting to see them on screen together. Love the side by side. Yeah. And then I also really liked Zendaya's acting when she's being mind controlled by Jean. I love that. I love how well that's played. That version of her, it still feels like Zendaya's MJ, but there's enough different in the performance that like once you know the twist, it's like, oh yeah, she's clearly being mind controlled.
I do have to say, Zendaya is one of the few actors, now adult actors, who came out of Disney as a child actor, who I have been pleasantly surprised by in terms of like growing into a well-adjusted, well-rounded human being who's like actually very good at her job.
Yeah. Yeah.
She did a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, fully agree. I've loved her MJ. I've loved her performances. Again, outstanding actor, and just getting to see like the natural chemistry of her acting beside Tom is fantastic. I kind of like that we don't get a lot of MJ, but like the scenes that she's in, she just tears up. And so I think that that's something that's very cool. I would not have been opposed if like Zendaya had zero, and Ned, if like MJ and Ned had zero lines in this film. and like they're in the
Interesting.
background, but they never talk to Peter, I would not have been upset if it's just like him having to try to find a way to get community. And then like it ends with him encountering them and like finally talking to them. I
Yeah.
don't think there was any reality where we got that happening here, but
Mm-mm.
I do think it would have been,
Not with their contracts.
yeah, I think it'd been really interesting if like, um, we weren't instantly back into my name's Peter Parker and I'm Spider-Man, with
Yeah.
with those two characters in specific. Um, and then Ned, love that they immediately go back to doing Legos together. I love the drawings. I love all of this stuff, like the interactions there. The fact that these feel like 20 something friends that are hanging out. Locke said loved that Ned and MJ grew up, but were still just very much themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's true as well. Like we now have like they were 18 in No Way Home. They're now 21, 22 college grads, like trying to find like their first big jobs. Loved that. Um, and then yeah, I love the spider board. I love the spider tracking app. Again, horrible implications, but whatever. Um, and so and then Aunt May. This the scene of Aunt May talking to Jean wrecked me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other Spider-Man tropes, and I was talking to Deanna about this, but one of the other Spider-Man tropes that I love is that Spider-Man is strong because of the foundation that other people have built into him. Like this kind
Yep.
of like Superman kind of falls into the same thing where like Superman is of course physically strong because he's a Kryptonian, but he is a strong person because of the Kents and the values they instilled in him. And so the idea here that like that this is the memory from that would have been right after the end of one of the movies where Aunt May learns that he's Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is immediately after that, and that this is a memory that Peter would hold on to as he's struggling with his own identity. And then like the message that Aunt May said to him is so pertinent to Jean as well. I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
I am a sucker. Thunderbolts does this as well. I am a sucker for healing the trauma that causes people to hurt people, and that we get into that as we've had. Yeah. And so love that Aunt May is still here doing that and helping people. And so, yeah, it was so touching. And my eyes definitely got watery. And so, but yeah, fantastic. Love this version of Aunt May. Love that Aunt May is younger, that it is not Grandma May. As someone who is already an uncle to 4 people and has been an uncle since like my mid 20s, I always thought she can't be Aunt May, she's too young was funny.
She's much more parenting age. Like,
yeah,
you could say that she was Peter's actual mom, and it'd be like, yeah, that age gap seems logical for that kind of relationship. Like, she seems age-wise like the kind of person who would have their own kids around Peter's age. So it makes sense in that regard.
Yeah.
It's a much more modern version of an aunt figure who would take in her siblings, child, basically.
Yeah. The Basco scenario comes in and says that was a great scene. Hot Aunt May for the win. Yeah, Hot Aunt May saves like New York City, basically. Like good for her.
Basically.
Yeah. And then for our next group of characters, we have who I'm deeming the man, basically, where we have Bill Metzger as the head of the Department of Damage Control. Of course, Department of Damage Control as a general entity. We have the Hand, and then we have DeWolf. And then as Locke did post a response to what I had asked earlier, and this is what I remembered, but I'm glad I asked because I did not remember all the specifics. So, in the comics, DeWolf and Spider-Man are close until she gets killed. Eddie Brock writes an article blaming the wrong person. Spider-Man / Peter calls him out, and then that is when, or that like his then hatred is what draws the symbiote to Eddie Brock after it finishes with Peter. And so, um, interesting implications. Like we know that Eddie Brock has been / the Venom symbiote has been in the MCU because of the multiverse shenanigans
Yeah.
from No Way Home. Um, but yeah, so some very interesting stuff. So, what did you think of these characters?
DeWolf, I think, is a good, not replacement, but like almost like the next Aunt May for Peter, but like basically the next character who cares about him in a way that is like, you are working too hard. You need to chill out and eat some food and take a
Mm-hmm.
day off. Basically, the next, not quite caregiver, but wise sage type figure, while also serving a functional purpose in the story of being like a contact within the police
Mm-hmm.
department, basically. Um, that helps Peter stay off of the blacklist, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, I thought she was great. She was the perfect level of side character. She wasn't around more than she needed to be. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have much to say about her other than just like she's a cool character. I like her. I would love to see more of her. Um, the others, Bill, Metzger, etc., I'm going to clump kind of into one.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up from the very first time we saw him that he was very sketchy and not telling us any of the truth, even though I had none of Mr. Marvel info about the Department of Control or whatever. Um, because he just, it's sketchy. Everything about that is sketchy. Um, we as the audience are very good at picking up on
Yeah.
things. We're smarter than we think we are. He knew from the beginning what he was up to. Don't like him. Kind of deserved to be put in a scary situation with Jean Grey. Doesn't deserve to die, which I don't think he did. I don't remember. He ended up getting arrested or something.
You know, it's kind of unclear.
Something happened to him. Unclear. Something happens to him. Um, that's not going to come back to haunt us at all. Um, but the the department also kind of did remind me of the Department of Control, as in the video game Control,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like there's some sketchy things going on that no one's really being totally honest about.
Very fair.
Um,
Yeah.
that like, okay, so we're just gonna go completely unregulated with all of this powerful weaponry that Spider-Man has willingly handed over, and like, not gonna talk about that at all beyond whatever until it comes to bite us in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean that's even the case with the hand. This group, who are very hand wavy, just sort of back
They
and
are
around and
ninjas.
doing things. They are ninjas. Um,
Um,
you mentioned the fight scene earlier towards the end with them.
mm-hmm.
Such a cool fight scene.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think they're all, that whole through line of the quote unquote real villain of
Mm-hmm.
the movie fits so well. Like you did kind of see it coming, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? I don't care that I kind of saw it coming because the storyline with Jean Grey being painted as the villain and Peter dealing with all of this sort of emotional trauma of having no community, like it all fits together neatly and
Mm-hmm.
nicely, um, because the department negatively impacts Jean Grey, who then, in her hunt for revenge, negatively impacts Peter Parker, who then gets in his own head and is essentially just destroying himself. And it all just kind of fits together so well and so nice
Mm-hmm.
into a cute little thing.
Yeah. Um, Another thing, and this isn't just a Spider-Man thing, um, but this is a superhero thing as a whole. But like, I love the barometer of like if you are in any sort of power. Like there are specific characters that like how they feel about that character is a barometer for are you clearly going to be the villain at some point. Where
Yeah,
like um
100%.
so like I love that we got both sides of that in this where we have DeWolf who's presumably a good cop from everything that we've seen of her, like has like kids looking out for them, stuff like that. Is like can kind of go into what you're saying of like filling in that Aunt May role of like encouraging Peter to like, hey, take some you time, heal up, like make sure you're getting rest and that you're not just doing the work. Um, and then we have Metzger on the other side that like is super corrupt, is clearly like um, I liked the idea of like the Department of Damage Control can't figure anything out for themselves. All they can do is steal. So it's
Mhm.
like, oh, these villains created this gauntlet. Well, now we're learning from the gauntlet. Oh, this person created this thing. Like they're just like it's the incompetent bureaucracy kind of idea,
Yep.
and like evil bureaucracy where like all they can do is take something and make it the worst version of it. Um,
Mhm.
and then so yeah, I thought that was super cool, or super cool like dichotomy between those. Um, um, Again, shouting out Trammell, who plays Metzger. Fantastic performance. Wanted to punch him right in the face the whole time, which is like literally the point.
I
Extremely
mean,
well played.
he's really good at those kinds of roles where you just wanna punch him in the face, let's be honest here.
Yeah, exactly. And then um, I'll talk more specific about the hand later on once we get into specific scenes. Um, but I am kind of sad the hand was just generic here. Like I really think that this would have been an opportunity where like if some other film or property, cough Daredevil cough, had like made us care about the hand, like that would have been really cool. Like if we recognize who this cool leader of the hand and like like who they were, like she seemed really cool, but like we have like nothing on her, and then like the rest are just kind of generic ninjas. I really wish that there was more there. And so, but we'll talk about them more later. In chat, Locke says, I both loved and hated that Metzger sincerely didn't know what VMAX was. Um, um, yeah, I thought that was really interesting. This thing was like, I legitimately have no idea, no interest in figuring out what this means. Um, I loved that as a air quotes twist, that like VMAX was supposed to be like built up to be this like very important thing, and like it's important to Sarah and is thus important to Jean, but not in terms of
Mhm.
like it's not some secret program, it's not something else,
That's
it's
gonna
just
end the
like
world or
yeah,
build the next Hulk or
yeah,
invent a new superhero. No, it's
yeah,
just a vent brand.
yeah,
But that vent brand is important to Jean
yeah,
because it was the last thing her sister saw.
exactly. Um, and then that will bring us to the final set of characters, our previous heroes, with Yelena and with the Hulk. The Basco says, how do you guys feel about the Hulk being in the movie? Do you think that Dr. Connor's lizard could have done the same thing, and he becomes Torment Lizard when Jean takes over his mind? I don't know Torment Lizard, so I can't speak to that. in specific, this is something that like I feel like has been a struggle with Tom Holland's Spider-Man is like we get Scorpion in this film and that's really cool, but like the fact that like we don't have the Lizard, there's obviously like our the version of the Lizard, Sandman, Goblin, Doc Ock, like all of the ones that we got in No Way Home are obviously sent back to their own timelines. And so like we don't have those versions of those characters. Um
Mm-hmm.
and so I definitely am sad that like we weren't able to get Lizard or any of those other characters in this film, especially cuz like there's not like we get a lot of Spider-Man villain references in the beginning with like Tombstone is in this like which is super fun, like a super cool nod, but like we don't get a lot of the other villains like from Spider-Man's very cool rogues gallery. And so I am kind of sad in that point, but to the question, I loved that we got to see more Hulk of like
Yeah.
actual Hulk too, that we get both Banner, Professor Hulk, and the Hulk all in this movie. I think is super cool. I loved that. I like the, of course, it was like all over the trailers, but I love that the how do you have to fight the Hulk and getting to see all of that, especially when Frank shows up and he's like shooting at the Hulk and this is clearly not doing anything, basically just annoying the Hulk. And like, I think that was super cool. I kind of like what Hulk represents as like a puzzle that has to be solved rather than a fight that has to happen. And then yeah, I do like the I didn't know you could get that big comment for the
Yeah.
Hulk. And then for Yelena, love that her office is just a spa. Like, and that it just
That's
keeps
one of
coming
my
back.
favorite scenes
Like,
is Spider-Man showing up at her office.
yeah. And then I love the implication that like she's like in charge of the Avengers right now, but she's out here reading like Spider-Man fan fiction and looking at
Yep.
like Rule 34 Spider-Man stuff. Like,
Yep.
I just thought that was so funny for her, like for her. And then yeah, I love Elena. I the more we can get of this character, I think awesome. Kind of as Florence Pugh's kind of become one of the like tentpole MCU actors for like the for post Endgame. And so anytime we can also, of course, this kind of goes to what I was saying earlier with Jean, but like anytime that we can acknowledge other characters, um, I really like that this isn't just the her or just isn't just Spider-Man, his characters, his rogue gallery. No, we get the Hulk, we get Yelena. Like I love that we can have those connections all built up together. What do you think of these two?
Yeah, I definitely Yelena's role in this definitely is what kind of got me to go, "Oh, I wanna go back and rewatch the movies that I've missed," or, like, some of the sort of main ones, like Thunderbolts. Because her character is definitely a lot more funny and great than I originally gave credit for. Um, and she really is like, as you said, she is the essentially the new leader of the Avengers, but she's also like this young adult who's just
Mm-hmm.
being a young adult. Like she's just out here living her best life as a young adult with questionable mob mentality backgrounds from Russia,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, yeah, someone put me in power as the head of the Avengers, and now this is what I'm doing from the comfort of a sauna bath.
Yeah.
Um, and it's great, and I love her.
Mm-hmm.
The Hulk, I also enjoyed his existence in this. The one thing that I kind of rubs me a little wrong, it's I don't want to call it a hand wave because it's not even really a hand wave. But I thought it was weird that Bruce Banner, after Peter shows up and starts asking him questions about his inhibitor, I found it weird that Bruce didn't eventually connect the dots and figure out that he was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because he's a smart guy. Like, you don't get a college age kid who's clearly not attending your college showing up in one of your classes asking about your inhibitor that controls the big bad green guy inside you, and then suddenly run into Spider-Man a bit later, who clearly has the technology that relates back to your thing, and
Yeah.
not connect the dots that those two guys are the same.
Yeah.
Especially when you're Bruce Banner.
Right. And kind of building off of that, I think if it's a less smart character, like, yeah, you can't keep up with every hero, but like, or in every villain in like New York City, but like Bruce Banner, it
Bruce Banner,
really
you're gonna
feels like
figure
you should
that
be
out if you're Bruce
like,
Banner. You're gonna
yeah,
connect the dots. If it
yeah,
were some, you know, if it were even if it were Thor or honestly even Tony Stark, like, yeah, okay, I could slightly more believe that you wouldn't necessarily connect the dots because you've got other things going on. But you're Bruce Banner, you teach college kids. Like,
yeah,
and you've got how many, your profession for so many years was to just get
yeah.
another degree.
When in
Suddenly
doubt,
full
get
of
degree.
suddenly you're full of radioactiveness that turns into a giant green angry dude. And now you gotta deal with that instead of getting a degree. You're gonna figure out that this puny little kid is Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Um, but otherwise, that was my one, like, this is odd that he didn't figure this out from this one interaction.
yeah,
Um, but otherwise, I loved his appearance. It was great to just have a classic MCU character show up and be his typical self, who's not always angry but is sometimes angry and gonna Hulk out about it. So
yeah. Let's go ahead and jump over into specific scenes for the sake of time. We've talked about a lot, but let's just kind of highlight favorite scenes, things like that that we haven't had a chance to talk about. And then we'll get into future MCU. So I referenced earlier, one of my favorite scenes is the hand fight. I wish the hand was less generic, but I really like this fight and how it felt like they were being mind controlled as a unit. Like with the way that they moved, the
yep,
way that things go
yep,
around. Of it's like, oh, how much of this is them being ninja, and how much of this is Jean controlling them almost like an organism. And so
a
I thought
hive
that was
mind.
a really cool thing. Yes, exactly. So um, and then other favorite, building the Legos, the hangout scene.
Yep,
Loved that.
that was also the building the Legos with Ned, and then connecting to at the end, um, when Peter introduces himself to Ned as Peter, because there's this whole point where MJ calls Spider-Man Peter, and Ned goes, "Spider-Man's name is Peter?" And then at
Mhm.
the end, Peter introduces himself to Ned as Peter and does this handshake, and Ned kind of connects the dots and goes, "Oh, you're Spider-Man." So, yeah.
Yeah. And then for least favorite scenes, the mind control kiss. Never a big
Yeah.
fan of the morality of like gestures broadly
Yeah.
at Wonder Woman 1984. Um, but the morality of this, I love that we do get to see like Peter apologize to MJ for this. Like, isn't his fault. He thought it was MJ, but like
Mhm.
the idea of like consent and that like Peter as a good person understands that this was something that was done without MJ's consent and apologizes
Yep.
for it. And then
Yep.
I hope that this comes back up. I hope that that Jean like has to deal with this as like a direct thing of like a way that you as a telepath have harmed people. I hope that that
Mhm.
comes up. Obviously, her taking control of anybody is morally bad, but like I like that we acknowledge that in this film instead of the Wonder Woman 1984, where it's just like, oh, I see the person that I love and this other person, and so I'm going to just see them for the whole film. So, any least favorite scenes on your side?
I mean, that was the same. It's the mind control scene. I mean, it serves a story
Yeah.
function, so it's
Yeah.
like it kind of is there for a reason. But I also was just like, oh, that's questionable. Also did like that they had Peter apologize later on, because that is very much like a like yeah, that is something that would weigh on Peter's mind after the fact and would like bother him. That is very much like a character thing that makes sense. Um, so it's like it's good that they like covered all of their bases there.
Yeah, and I think
So
it's good that they bring it up. Even like saying least favorite, like I think it's acted well. I think it's performed well,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I
it's
like
well
the
done
idea
and
of
it
the
serves a
like,
purpose.
yeah. I think they could have stopped right before the kiss and have that be where the reveal was that this was Jean Grey, and it would have been fine. But
Mm,
again, I love that there's consequences for this negative action, and so
yep.
within the like in the sense of like Peter needs to apologize, and again, I hope there's consequences for Jean that this gets brought up later. Um, but um, but then let's chat future MCU. We got some questions slash call outs from Shanine, and then some from Sneaky, and then I added one from chat from Locke into this as well. So Shanine says it's hard to beat Daredevil, but love Jane Grey. Um, and then she asks implications for X-Men? Question mark. And then that ties in with one of Sneaky's questions. Says curious about the possible tie-in to the original animated X-Men. In the original cartoon, Jubilee is wearing an inhibitor and being hunted by Sentinels. In this movie, does Jean's actions lead to the creation of the Sentinel Project and the creation of the universal inhibitor to be used on mutants? In the movie, Jean loses, or Spidey loses the inhibitor, but Jean destroys the other one. This also, I think, ties in really well with the Deadpool series. I believe it's specifically Deadpool 2, where they have the collars that block mutant powers. This is also, there's already like a mutant or a power dampening collar that's on Wanda in one of the films. So like not entirely new to the MCU, but like the implication here of like a universal suppressor for any power that's based on your DNA is
This is the
crazy.
most this
Yeah.
is the most powerful version of it, basically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know much about the original X-Men cartoon. It's my only visual media exposure to X-Men are the movies. Um, but I am curious to see because obviously what we've got going at this point are with specifically the X-Men and with like these other versions of Spider-Man are any character that has existed in a movie that was not specifically MCU, so like the other Spider-Mans and their villains and the X-Men, basically it's been determined that in the MC universe, those are alternate reality versions of these
Mm-hmm.
heroes or villains.
Yep.
They are not the main timeline versions of those characters, which
Yep.
I think is really the way to do it when you have a legal situation like this going on, where finally people have come to agreements. Um, because it can get messy if you just kind of say, oh, yeah, these X-Men characters have always been here. We just haven't talked about them for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, well, that kind of ruins the joy of the last 20 years. Um, but in terms of Jean Grey implications for the future, I do feel like her role in this movie is a great setup for whatever version of the X-Men we get in main timeline going forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because she is the main timeline's MCU timeline's version of Jean Grey.
Yeah.
And we've got to start introducing those characters at some point, and it does feel kind of natural to have some of them start to be introduced in other established characters' movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't always want to watch the origin story, going back to Spider-Man, of a hero that they already kind of have the gist of their origin story for.
Yeah.
Um, and is just kind of known. But if you tie them in well with a character who we already know and love, and are able to like sort of give us the lowdown of their backstory while also intertwining it with these other main characters, then it feels for more natural. Um, so I think future honestly, I don't know much about the Thunderbolts or if that would impact my thoughts and opinions about the X-Men going forward. But I do think we are going to see a lot of the mutant category
Mm-hmm.
characters getting introduced in the next phase, basically. Because we do essentially have the mutant category and then the Avengers sort of category characters in terms of how they get their powers. Um, so I can see a lot of X-Men characters getting introduced in the next 3 or 4 years who are,
Mm-hmm.
as I say, mid timeline, quote unquote. Um, but yeah, that in combination with the inhibitor is like this is not the first time we've seen an inhibitor within the MCU. This is just the most powerful version of it. And it's definitely that is a topic that is dealt with a lot in the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Um like one of the biggest plot lines and debates within the X-Men sort of storylines and characters and universe and whatever is, well, should we regulate the powers of superhumans,
Yeah.
basically? Um, and I think we're definitely starting to see the beginning bits of that kind of conversation happening. We've seen it before with um, Civil War, but
Mm-hmm.
this is now a completely it's the same conversation in a different context. So I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. For me, I kind of just echoing everything you said about the inhibitor. Um, and then the thing that I think is interesting about this as not like the first mutant that we've had in the MCU, but as the first like major mutant in terms of like the powerhouses. I really like the idea, and I've mentioned this before with other characters, but I really like the idea that post Secret Wars, somehow a bunch of mutants get shunted into the main MCU timeline from their own. And
Mm.
so we never get an MCU version of specific characters, or they use it as a way to mess with, like, because like time travel is also a major part of X-Men stories, like young Cyclops, young Jean Grey, like these alternate timeline versions of the characters coming in for whatever shenanigans. And like with that, I really like the idea here of instead of us getting Xavier's school, we get the Jean Grey school of higher learning. And that she's the one that assembles the X-Men. She is the one that like brings everyone together. And like we do still get a Charles, but in this take on it, their roles are swapped because of multiverse shenanigans. I think
Mhm.
that would be really cool. I think that would lead to some cool options for storytelling. One of the things I said in Locke's Discord is I really want Jean Grey to get a "To Me My X-Men" in Secret Wars or in Doomsday. Like I want her to
Yeah.
have that moment. Um, I think that would be super cool to see. Um, and Locke says, heard a rumor it might be Emma Frost's school. We did also, like, Emma Frost does also run a separate school in the comics and then eventually comes over to the X Mansion for shenanigans. So that would work as well as kind of, again, this idea of messing with the normal mutant tropes where maybe we don't get a formal X Mansion right away, I think would be really cool. And then, yeah, I am very excited for this. I like the idea of mutants always being on the back foot when it comes to sentinels, when it comes to these collars, the power inhibitor stuff. And like, even if like they're never as good as the ones Spider-Man created, I really like the idea of like, okay, well, Department of Damage Control is chasing these down as they become the Department of like mutant whatever. And they basically morph into like this other side. And so I think it would be interesting.
Yeah.
And then for our other question from Sneaky, he says or asks, was Jean Grey's mental hold that broke through Doctor Strange's spell to help MJ/Ned begin to remember Peter, or was it the "I love you" conversation from MJ and the handshake from Ned that helped them start to remember, or was it a combination of the two? What do you think?
Yeah. This was the thing that I said I was going to talk about later. I personally do not think that Doctor Strange's memory wiping spell was broken. I think that they still have their memories completely wiped, personally. That's my interpretation of what has happened, because there are a couple of scenes, little things within the movie that can kind of hint at they're getting their memories back, but can also read as basically once you learn how to ride a bike, you
Mm-hmm.
never forget how to ride a bike, right? Like, we see MJ up on the rooftop where they've hung out at in the past. She could have easily had her memory wiped and then relearned about that location
Which,
and or
and
like
also as an important
still
thing
know
there,
about it.
it's not that she forgot about the rooftop. She just forgot that Peter was there. So she
Yeah,
remembers her and Ned on that rooftop. She just doesn't
yeah,
remember that Peter's there.
yeah. So there's that, and then there's Ned at the end with the scene with Peter where Peter reintroduces himself and he remembers the handshake. That very much to me comes off as like muscle memory. Plus also Ned is a little bit odd anyway and likes to come up like reasonably would in his free time come up with random handshakes and from muscle memory kind of come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um so to me, from my interpretation, they don't really start to remember, and even when they're frozen and we see MJ crying, like, she knows logically that Spider-Man is Peter Parker and Peter Parker was in love with a previous version of her,
Mm-hmm.
and she can also she's smart. It's safe to assume that she can also come to the conclusion that Spider-Man is sacrificing himself in that moment to save New York. Like, to me, it doesn't seem like they got their memories back. But if I were to play the game of this question, I personally would think that it is Jean Grey's spell or Jean Grey's mental hold that
Mm-hmm.
is like kicks it off
Yeah.
because she is even in this one movie that we've had her in so far, she is a very powerful mutant. We see that in this movie, we see that in the X-Men movies. She is strong as anything. She
Yeah.
is a
She
dangerous
she is
superhero.
Omega
So
level.
I feel like
So
yeah, like she's tens across the board when it comes to power level. So
yeah.
like I can definitely believe that if anything in this movie were to kick off them getting their memories back, it would have been that initial hold from Jean Grey, you know, freezing everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
then maybe potentially after that, the handshake and other interactions speeding up the process. But I don't
Yeah.
think these smaller interactions with Peter would do the trick to trigger their memories back on their own.
Yeah. I'm similar to you. I really like MJ and Ned never getting their memories back.
Yeah.
I like the idea that like Hulk kind of remembers, but Bruce doesn't, because like
Yeah.
Hulk wasn't there when the spell was cast. Bruce was. And so
Yeah.
I really like that as this like dichotomy. I'm not opposed to the idea of that, like, hey, Ned is, and Locke posted this in chat, like, Ned has magic abilities. They've harped a lot on it. Um, and then I really like this idea. Locke calls out big question is, did the spell suppress or erase? If it's suppress, Jean could be the catalyst, but if it's erase, otherwise. And then Deanna hops in chat and says Cameron likes a consequence, rightfully so. Yes, and that's my biggest
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
and this goes to what I said at the beginning. Every decision that's good for Spider-Man should be bad for Peter Parker. And
Yeah.
I think the best way to do that is to basically acknowledge that like Peter, Ned, and MJ were friends and can be friends again, but you have to build that new friendship. And maybe Peter
Yeah.
hits them with, hey, y'all remember when this happened? I was there. Y'all remember when this happened? I was there. And you get
Yeah.
him kind of expressing his version of
Filling in
events
the
to them.
gaps.
Yeah. But I personally never want anyone to have remembered that. I think that that is
Yeah.
it's way better to have that consequence matter
Yeah.
than it is to just go away. And at least as like the major scale. Like again,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
Hulk,
Back to that.
maybe maybe Wanda or Vision.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah. There are a few characters who like it is justifiable to say that they kind of remember. But there's a question in chat about the memories being suppressed versus erased. I do think those memories were straight up erased and gotten rid
yeah,
of. Because
yeah,
back to your point, this is Spider-Man. There's always consequences for Spider-Man specifically and Peter. So like I do think they're straight up erased and they just don't exist anymore. And it is a more impactful thing for his character to have to go back and rebuild
mm-hmm,
rather than just switch a button and suddenly his friends remember again. Because
yeah,
if he switches a button, it kind of defeats the purpose of Doctor Strange casting the spell. Because
right,
then anyone could flip a button and remember that Peter Parker is Spider-Man and, you know,
yeah,
his being framed by whatever the guy was who was in Pushing Daisies. Um,
Mysterio.
Mysterio, thank you. Like, because Mysterio framed him. And so the whole point of wiping the memories of the entire planet was so that Mysterio's framing wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone can flip a button to get their memories back, it defeats the purpose of that whole thing. So I think the memories were erased altogether and you can't restore them.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's much more interesting storytelling. And then as we get close to the end, Locke did call out, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but as a potential way, there are fan theories swirling that based on the DeWolf stuff that we talked about, that we could finally get to see Black Suit Spider-Man again. We haven't seen this since Spider-Man 3, on the big screen at least. My big hope here is, and this is, I feel the same way if we ever try to do the Dark Phoenix saga for a third time, is my big hope here is that if we get Dark Suit Spider-Man, I want it for a whole movie. Like, I don't want us to
Yeah,
just like instantly have Spider-Man and then like it introduces Venom as well. Like, I want it to
yeah,
be, we get a whole movie of Black Suit Spider-Man, because it shouldn't be immediate that he becomes, wait, this is bad. So,
yeah. I
um,
have also seen theories circulating about Ned eventually turning into Hobgoblin because Ned's
mhm,
character in the comics does eventually turn into Hobgoblin, which is
yeah,
another version of the Green Goblin. Um, which I think is an interesting take because that does go back to the like what's good for Spider-Man is bad for Peter Parker,
mhm,
and what's for good for Peter Parker is bad for Spider-Man.
yeah,
Because there was a couple of things that mildly hinted to Ned that being the future for Ned. So
mhm.
I think that would be interesting.
And then last one, post-credit scene, we get the Spider Tracker app. It zooms out and we see a Spider-Man located in space. I want to hear what you thought about this scene. I love the idea of this being Spider-Man trying to let Ned know that he is safe, but is in space. Because it's like the app is self-reporting. So like it's not like it's not like biometric. Like, wait, there's a Spider-Man in space. Like someone has to report that Spider-Man is there. And so I really
it's
like,
a crowd serviced app. Kind of like Waze for traffic.
Yeah.
It's people reporting.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like the idea that like
yeah. Go ahead.
With like whatever we get for Doomsday or Secret Wars, that's when this happens, and that we're gonna get some little nod to Peter like checking in on the app so that people know he's safe. That like New York is like, where is Spider-Man? And he's like, oh, it's okay. I am in space, but I am okay.
My funny haha giggly thought with that was that, you know, something along those lines, but he's just randomly off for no reason with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, I haven't seen the third movie, so I don't know what they're up to. But that was just my funny, like, oh yeah, he's off hanging with Peter Quill because he can. Just vibing. And Peter Quill finds his phone one day and logs in for him or whatever. Like, I don't know how logistically that would work, but that was my funny little like, oh, he's just off hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. But that has been our spoiler cast for Spider-Man Brand New Day. Any closing thoughts, Emma?
Solid movie, great time. I need more Marvel movies like that. I need to go back and catch up on a couple. I'm prioritizing movies over TV shows because movies are easier to catch up on. And require less commitment.
Yeah.
I can just throw on a 2.5 hour movie while I do arts and crafts, and I'm guaranteed to be done at the end of those 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Echoing what I said at the beginning, this is the energy we need. Like, I hope that we get a lot more films that feel like true to the characters in this way. I've really liked the past handful of the Marvel movies. I feel like we've been back on an uptick in terms of quality, and I hope that they continue with that, especially with Doomsday. And so really looking forward to seeing what is next. And so, and then love this energy, love Spider-Man. Glad that we have another fantastic Spider-Man film. And then as we wrap up, probably not going to have time for post-show chat, but for announcements, as a reminder, we will be back with session 4 of Coriolis, The Great Dark, The Flowers of Algarob, next week, as we return to space. And I am excited to see what y'all get up to. I'm excited for us to deal with the consequences of the fight that y'all had and all of that. And for us to keep going in that campaign. And so that'll be next week, 7:30, right here on Twitch and YouTube. And then, of course, you can find us around the internet as OneGeek411. Join that Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. And then you can find us around the internet at our personal social media. Mine is Humar Whittle.
Mine is I'm not prepared with an I in the prepared because I'm bad at spelling.
It's been a great week.
Sling some webs.
Do whatever a spider does.